So I'd like to talk marketing, because how marketing applies to that, because without the marketing, you really don't have the business, and you're not able to create the impact that you want to create through martial arts and live that lifestyle. So it always comes down to the marketing side of it. Now, you can be a great teacher, but if nobody knows who you are, it's always going to be a struggle. And I mean, 99% of the school owners I speak to, it's always, how do we get more students? Hey, it's George. Hope you're well. So a bit of a different podcast interview for you today. I just got off a podcast interview where I was the one being interviewed. So a little different, me sitting on the other side of the fence, getting asked all the questions, was a lot of fun. And so I decided to actually share the podcast interview with you here. Thought it was a good idea. We discussed a couple of cool things. First 20 minutes, more the sort of life background stuff, but I think about 18 minutes in, we really got into some real good actionable marketing steps, things about business, life, and general. So had so much fun, was great, and I thought it would be good to share the podcast with you here today. Simply because I'm always the guy asking all the questions. So perhaps you'll learn a bit about me if you're curious about that. If not, you've heard all that stuff. Skip the first 18 minutes and get into the nuts and bolts, because we really discussed a couple of real good concepts, actionable stuff for your martial arts business. So anyway, podcast was with Florence Sophia from Toronto. You can check out her website at bjjyoga.com, and also her Instagram handle is at Jiu-Jitsu Yoga. Right, so at Jiu-Jitsu Yoga, and website bjjyoga.com. Anyway, here we go. Hope you enjoy the episode.
We are live. Hi, George. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Florence?
Very well. It is 8 p.m. in Toronto, Canada, and 8 a.m. in Australia.
In Perth. That's right.
In Perth. I can't believe we are speaking from such a distance away from each other.
It's all good. The future looks good for you guys.
Yeah, right? The world seems smaller than what it is, actually, with technology. Awesome. Amazing. So let me start by introducing our guest. I am Florence Sophia. I am your host today. And we have an amazing podcast. Wired to Win is the title. Game plan and strategies for martial arts business. I am so much looking forward for this conversation with you, and thank you for making the time to be with us today, George. So George is the founder of Martial Arts Media. From former computer programmer, he turned into a successful online marketer. He found his passion for martial arts by following his son's journey, and fast forward 8 years later, you're now a purple belt. Congrats on that. That's an amazing achievement.
Took a while.
A lot of people don't get there. Yeah. A lot of tears and sweat, I bet.
Totally.
So George works with a new group of school owners and community called Partners, and we'll get into it shortly, where the focus is generating more income, more impact, and living the lifestyle that martial arts provides. Your success comes from your expertise in online marketing, coupled with your ability to bring in tested principles from outside the industry and apply it to the gym and school owners. That's amazing. So tell us, George, what are the things that are interesting to you that you are working on right now, and also why is it interesting to you personally and professionally?
If I had to go with the most recent, would be just completing the 75 hard challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did 2 days. I lasted 2 days.
You did 2 days?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Where did you get stuck?
I'm sorry?
Where did you get stuck?
Going back to work. The weekend was fantastic. I had the time, and then the Monday came, and it's just challenging when you have a busy work schedule. But I do intend to get back to it, and also with the weather being nicer, it's gonna be easier for the right? So one of the items for our audience who doesn't know about the 75 hard is 45 minutes of workout outside, which sometimes with the snow might be challenging, which I'm sure you don't have that challenge in Australia.
Yeah, so we probably, the outside workout is probably a lot easier in Australia, and when you move on to phase one, you got to add cold showers to the mix as well, which in summer here was really it was easy to do. But the 75 hard challenge, so if you don't know, it's a challenge that you do for 75 consecutive days, doing 5 things, 2 workouts, 45-minute workouts a day, 1 outside, read 10 pages of nonfiction, follow a diet, no cheat meals or alcohol, and I'm missing one. Water. How can I miss that? A gallon of water, so that's about 4 liters of water a day. So it's a real simple thing, but it's to be honest, I've done a lot of personal development and work on myself over the years, but that's probably hands down the best thing I've ever done, because just that reinforcement of daily habit to really understanding what habit and discipline is, that really ingrained it in me. And it's not something you pick up in a book. It's not something you read. You just got to do it. And once you've done it, it really transforms your life in so many ways. Yeah. And
so I'm actually curious. So you completed the 75 days, right?
I did the 70. Yeah.
How was that journey? How did you feel along the way to keep yourself motivated through it? Because I bet, I know a lot of people who go halfway and then have to go back, and like me, I lasted 2 days, but it takes a lot of discipline, like you're saying, to get to the 75 days.
Yeah, a big part would be accountability. If you're in a group of, and you've got to choose your group wisely, of course, but if you have a group of motivated people that are doing it, it's a lot harder to fall back on what you're doing. And and just obviously wanting to do it. The thing is, when you follow it on the app, the further you get into it, the stakes just become higher. And, if you're 20 days or 30 days in and it's 11 o'clock at night and you haven't done that second workout, you suck it up and you do it because you don't want that little meter to go down to 0. And I've never been one for challenges and doing this type of things. I always thought it was a bit, I don't know. It didn't catch me until I did it. But how was the journey? So what I decided to do was I figured, well, I've got a daily routine of training jiu-jitsu at 12 o'clock. So I figured, well, if I'm gonna not change the rules, but I'm just gonna do it a bit differently, in the sense of I will have jiu-jitsu every day, which is kind of an hour to 90-minute workout, but then I'll do my second workout, which might just be like an evening walk, like a brisk walk outside, and go do that for 45 minutes. And so that was my plan, right? I'll just do jiu-jitsu every day, and which is always a great plan until injuries start to creep up. And so, which they did, because I've got a shoulder injury, and I'm now sitting with tennis elbow, which is, anyway, we're not going to talk injuries, right? Because when we talk jiu-jitsu and injuries, it could go. We could
spend the night.
A can of worms. So my shoulder injury came back up, and I just decided to work around it, really work around it. And I know it needed rest, but I just carried on training, and it just paid off. And 2-3 weeks in, my shoulder was better, routine got back on track. The hardest part was traveling, because we had a holiday book. And so we got on the plane. This is the first time I got on the plane after this whole, pandemic thing hit. And I felt sick, like really sick. I remember being on a coaching call with my clients, and I couldn't talk. It was like, I really couldn't talk. No words came out. And so that week was probably the hardest part of it, because I had to really substitute.
What pushed you to stick to it and not give up?
Again, just the having to start over again. And I had the deadline my deadline was the 75th day was Christmas. So, and I wanted to have a good meal on Christmas Day. And
that's a good deadline.
yeah, so I knew stopping and restarting meant, going over it anyway. But yeah, that's kind of what got me through it. So if you are going to do something like that, just make sure your deadline, make sure that you've planned out, obstacles in between of what dates can come up that might throw you off course, travel, birthdays, celebrations, etc., and have a good group of peer group of people that are cheering you on.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So talk to me about your journey from the computer programming industry to being, the successful online marketer that you are today for martial arts businesses.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's whoa. What's that, about a 26-year journey compressed into a little bit, but it's sort of it's something that really fell from one thing, and I'll skip a lot of gaps because I don't want to go into bore you with too much details. But I mean, I started computer programming as after school. I'd never done martial arts. Martial arts was never, as a kid, my thing. It was surfing, playing drums. That was really my passion. And after taking some time off after school, I was like, all right, I've got to go do something. And I was like, I've got to go study marketing. Like that's what it feels like for me. That feels like a calling. And I remember, people giving me advice, as people that care about you always do, telling me that, no, you shouldn't do marketing. Everybody does the marketing. And so somehow I stumbled on, I'm going to do computer programming. And so I started computer programming, which was actually quite funny because when I walked into the class the first day, I recall sitting around all these kids that have obviously been programming for life, right? And they could just tapping away, and here's me trying to figure out, where do I actually put the computer on? Like that's how amateur I was with technology. And so I started computer programming, which was really interesting in the sense of problem solving and learning. But halfway through, I started selling computers to my classmates, and so that just got me into business. So I kind of just fell back into what felt natural, was marketing. And so after studying, I had two paths. One is I go follow the corporate lifestyle, or number two is I become an entrepreneur. And so I thought I would give this entrepreneur thing a go. And that's like early 20s, where things really begun. We started knocking on doors and trying to figure out how we're going to get clients. And I think we got our first client out of pity more than anything, two young guys knocking on business doors.
Faith.
Yeah. and so that became a thing, and we became super successful, like the talk of the small town. And we did well. And about 2 years in, and now this is going back in age time, if the year 2000, where all computers were going to die, well, obviously that didn't happen, right? But we couldn't navigate our business through that, and we crashed in more ways than one, financially, egos. So I lost a lot of money, and that was it. I parted ways with computers for a good 10 years. And then I got into sales and marketing, more like a default profession, not chosen. I'm from South Africa. So in South Africa, sometimes employment opportunities are not great. So started in sales and marketing, and that was, when I started in sales and marketing, I really understood why my business failed, is the lack of understanding marketing and sales. And it's probably the best education I've had in life, is just going through that sales process, because when you have sales managers that are really drilling you and really putting the pressure on you to understand yourself and what you are projecting to the world and how that is affecting your business, that was life-changing.
It wasn't a failure, it was a lesson.
Everything's disguised as a lesson, right? But fast forward the life story. I moved to us. I broke my neck actually in a car accident. That was probably the biggest wake-up call of all. Broke my neck, and I look back on it, and if I think what sort of really struck a nerve is I was in hospital, and I had big neck brace on. I had a hemorrhage. You can see I've got a cut.
I can see that.
And I'm lying in hospital, and the doctors looking at me, and he laughs, and I'm like, why are you laughing?
Yeah.
He says, because guys like you, we normally just don't operate. And I say, why? He says, because you're dead in 2 weeks. And he walks out. and I snickered, but it hit me so hard, like it was just, kind of the thing that hits you between the eyes. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, what if that was it? Like, what if that was my life?
Yeah.
I was 27, 28 at the time. And then I planned my exit strategy. Like, how am I gonna leave South Africa? How am I gonna live life? And I got a job at a cruise ship in the States, moved to the States, lived around Los Angeles, New Orleans. We cruised through Alaska, so did all that. And then I landed up in Australia. I was going to be a holiday, turned into life. And then, here I am in Australia. Where we at the life story? Yeah, so got back into sales and marketing, and and somewhere along the line, I picked up a computer. And look, actually, in reality, is I landed up in Australia, and I didn't have a valid working visa. I'm legal now in the authorities.
but
at the time,
congrats, that's a big milestone.
Yes, I mean, I was expecting a son, and I was in Australia. I couldn't leave to go apply for a visa, and my son was going to arrive. So it was a bit of a juggle. And so in that time, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I bought a computer, and I got back onto marketing. And so that became then a blend for me, right? Because now I had computer programming knowledge, but I had also a lot of sales and marketing, and I started looking at business opportunities. And I spent my money on a lot of stuff, just trying home business opportunities and network marketing and selling e-commerce products, and just a lot of trial and error. And that's why I just don't take for granted what we have now, because now we have Facebook groups and knowledge is just infinite. Back then,
everywhere.
2006, 2007, there wasn't much around, right? There was Google, there was MySpace, and you could search and you could find stuff, but it was really hard to, if you're just a newbie starting out, there's nobody to ask. I got into a book, and this was probably the most foundational book that changed me into, that really taught me about marketing, was Perry Marshall's Definitive Guide to Google AdWords. And that really taught me foundations of how does marketing work? How do numbers work? And I still have that same type of conversation with school owners every week, because those foundations still don't change. Understanding your lifetime customer value, how much can you spend to get a customer, and understanding those metrics, that's super powerful.
So tell us, what has Jiu-Jitsu taught you, and what aspects of the Jiu-Jitsu mindset are you applying, in times of uncertainty, like right now in the lockdown?
Yeah. So look, I guess just for some context, I started training martial arts just after that. Wasn't Jiu-Jitsu at first. I figured that I could only train Jiu-Jitsu after getting punched in the head, and the doctor said that's not a good idea.
I don't think it was recommended.
No. And so I got into martial arts, and so I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for the last 6-7 years, I believe. Anyway, but to skip from that story, what's Jiu-Jitsu taught me? Well, really resilience, problem solving. Being okay with obstacles and learning how to overcome them. We fortunately in a completely different situation compared to, I know you guys in Canada are still having it super tough. Guys in the UK and so forth. For us, we've moved past it, and so things are a lot different here. We can walk freely, and no masks, etc. We continued with normal day-to-day life, but for the most part, what it's taught me is just being in the moment, being able to navigate through problems, and there's always options, right? There's always a second option. There's always options to go beyond the situation of what you're dealing with.
I can definitely hear the resilience in you. I do relate to that aspects of jiu-jitsu. But tell us, like moving on to the main topic of the night, martial arts businesses and strategies. What would you say are the 3 key strategies to pivot and grow a martial art business, especially when everything seems to be going wrong?
Okay, so it's a big question, right? And I want to be conscious of your audience and where people are at, and especially if they beyond the pandemic or still navigating out of lockdowns and so forth. But for me, because I help school owners with marketing, I'm not an instructor, a teacher, or school owner. Marketing is where we help the lead generation. So I always start there, because the same advice that we give a school owner that's trying to get to 100 students, we got school owners that have, our client base that have multiple thousand students, and they're still applying the same principles. So I'd like to talk marketing, because how marketing applies to that, because without the marketing, you really don't have the business, and you're not able to create the impact that you want to create through martial arts and live that lifestyle. So it always comes down to the marketing side of it. Now, you can be a great teacher, but if nobody knows who you are, it's always going to be a struggle. And I mean, 99% of the school owners I speak to, it's always, how do we get more students?
Yeah. One of the strategies I heard actually today is, you are successful when actually you don't need to brag. It's the other people who do that for you, which I for me was like an aha moment.
Yeah. So and in that sense, right? So if you've got a great product and you can get your students to talk about it, I mean, that's magic. You're never going to beat the power of a good referral. So
exactly.
So first up, and this is why I always what I've grown to learn is, everybody asks the question, how do we get more students? But it's a loaded question, because it goes way deeper to that. Well, are you keeping students? Or are you getting the leads in, but you're just not converting them? So, but to go back on your question, how do we go about this? There's the 3 core things, and I'm happy to dive deeper into it. But the 3 core things starts with 1, irresistible offer. So you've got to have a good offer that people can resonate with, and that's kind of gives a no-brainer effect. And I always start there, right? Because if when people come to us and say, well, we're posting these Facebook ads and they're not working, that's probably the first place we normally start, is how does the offer look? And just to clarify on the offer, an offer is the transaction that people have got to do to take the next step. So is it a free trial? Is it a paid trial? What have they got to do, and how attractive is it? And so there goes a lot of science goes into creating that offer, because it's got to communicate value. And sometimes there's a disconnect with, as martial artists or school owner, that, you understand the value of martial arts, but the person looking to start, they've got no clue. And it's to tell someone they're going to get confidence or fitness or self-defense. Yeah, but what does that really mean? So packaging the offer in a way that communicates value and is a no-brainer. And the risk is on you, the school owner, not the client, to take the first step. That's the most powerful thing that you've got to do. So that's number 1, have a good offer. And then number 2, how do you get the offer to market? So look, there's always talks about this social network, that, but for the most part, the easiest way always is still Facebook ads, if you follow the right formula. And you know how to grab attention, pique interest with a good benefit, present your offer. And then number 3.
Sorry. What is the right formula?
Yeah. So the formula we always use is and people are super familiar with this, but it goes a few levels deeper. But the formula we stick to always is it's called the AIDA principle. AIDA. But I'll break it down for you. So it stands for A is for attention, I for interest, D for desire, and A for action. Okay. Right. So So attention. Attention is, you've got to stop people in their tracks. So if you think of a platform like Facebook, people are mindlessly killing time. Nobody's really looking for something. And so if you had to compare a platform like Google and Facebook, Google's got intent because people are actively typing in the thing that they're looking for, where Facebook, they're not. People are just looking at cat videos or whatever they're doing. But you can target so accurately with Facebook that you can put the right offer in front of them. And that's why offer is so important on Facebook. So you got to stop people in their tracks. So how do you do that? Well, you can call them out. Just say, Toronto parents. That's simple, but you call them out. But 70% of why people will stop will be your media. So your photos and videos should be on point. Now, people always say videos are better. They could be if you're super good at video, but most people aren't. And even people that are good at video miss the points of the true benefits. So there might be a good video editor, but it's not resonating with people that they're actually going to stop. They can't see themselves in the picture. But a picture is easy, right? A picture is, can I see me or my kid there? Yeah. And so that covers attention, right? I've stopped. So now I'm paying attention. And so now you've got to grab my interest. And so there's two ways we go about interest. One is ask a question. Number two is a benefit-driven headline. I'm not such a fan of a question. And a big mistake I see people make is stacking the questions. So do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? And your prospect might be sitting there and yes, 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 no. And they're gone. Right? So you've got to make sure that if you ask a question that it's actually answers yes, but you're probably still going to have to follow up with a benefit-driven headline anyway. So I just start with a benefit-driven headline.
Like what?
Yeah, so easy formula is the easiest formula still is, and this I think so many people claim to have made this popular, but I know it as how to benefit without pain. So how to get the thing that you want without the thing that you're trying to avoid. So you could look at your audience and think, okay, well, what is it, the thing that they get the most out of their training, jiu-jitsu or martial arts? And if you don't know, just interview 10 of your students. You'll get a clear insight real quick. And then what don't they want? Are they sick and tired of the gym? Are they sick and tired of people posing in the mirror at the gym? Are they, what is it that they don't want? And so this is how you create this polarizing effect.
I like it. How do you get the thing you want without doing the thing you don't want?
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that framework, it's probably the simplest place to start. And so going a bit deeper, the thing that you want is not a jiu-jitsu class. That's the vehicle, right? The thing that you want is what the jiu-jitsu is going to give you or what the martial arts is going to give you. So what is that outcome that's going to resonate with people? Is it confidence? Is it self-discipline? Is it self-defense? Is there what is that higher level? And I mean, you can go way deeper than that as well, because what do they get out of self-defense? But I mean, that probably comes up more in a conversation. But that's how you establish the value, right? So you got to remove the value from just the vehicle. It's what does the vehicle give? And so this really helps people, I think, in the sense where people get hung up with their art. And sometimes people will tell me, my art's so complicated. I don't know how to explain it. Well, you don't, because you're the only one that at that point cares about it, right? A new prospect, they typically don't understand the difference between karate, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. Most of them just don't. So
they're
you've got to
looking
just
for a feeling, for an emotion.
Yeah. So most people just aren't. Maybe there's a fraction of people that are educated, but they probably know where they want to go anyway. So the general population that you're talking to don't. All right. So that's where we are, right? Now, you've stopped them in their tracks, attention. You've gathered some interest. Now, some desire. Now, desire, depending on the price point of your trial, you might need a few bullets, like short little benefit-driven sentences. But typically, if you what we do is we would have like a paid trial, like we work with a sheet that, numbers that we've tested and price points that we tested. So it kind of takes the thinking a bit out of it. But if that offer is below $100, then you can typically just get away the desire section with a good offer. So if you have a really good offer and it's crystal clear, it's well communicated, that could be enough. And now,
but if it's higher than 100?
But if it's higher than 100, you might want to have some bullet points to back it up.
And those will be the benefits.
Yeah, those would just be extra benefits, what they get with this offer. So kind of before the offer. And then action, like what do they need to do to get this thing? And so 2 big mistakes that school owners make here is, 1, not have it. Yeah, that's probably the biggest mistake, is people just don't tell them. They do this perfect ad, but they're like, well, what do I do to get this thing? So telling people super clear what they got to do. Now, this is where you got to abide. We talk about abiding by the platform rules. A lot of times I'll see people have like a flyer, and they put their flyer on Facebook. It was a great flyer, but now it's on Facebook. So it's great in print, but it's not a great ad. And on the flyer, there'll be call us, phone number, or email. Now, I don't know about you, if you've ever tried to click on a phone number or email address on a phone, it doesn't happen, right? So imagine most of your people looking at an ad, and they're looking at it, and, well, what's the number? They don't have a pen.
Yeah.
They don't remember it. Oh, I don't know. What do I do?
And then they forget.
And then I'll do it later. They've got all the intent to do it later, but they just won't, because so you've lost them, right? So what's the simplest way to have a call to action? Well, what we've learned over the years, and I guess I'll say this, 6 years ago, when we released our first Martial Arts Media Academy course, which was a marketing course, our advice was also different. We would say, have a great landing page and send people to a great website or landing page. Now I never start there. Will having that be an added asset? Yeah. But now we just want to sell the conversation. We just want to have more conversations, because if you can have more conversations, we can have more conversions. So we just go for what is the best way for people to get in touch. Easiest is send a message, or you could do like a lead ad in Facebook where you gather the names, emails, and so forth. But again, depending on the level that people are at, we just go for the messaging. So those are the 3 things, right? You have to have a good offer. The formula to put in front of people, and then what is the call to action? And you can do those 3 things at scale, because I see people do that with 10, 20 students a month, with two hundreds. That means staying focused on it, getting better at the kind of like your martial arts, right? You don't just go practice once and do something new. But I think as business owners, we get bored with our marketing before anybody else does. So we want to try something new. But if you've refined that and you know your offer converts, then you can improve the offer by the messaging, and then you can improve the conversion by the way you actually follow up on the messages.
All right. So just to recap, we have an irresistible offer, number 1. Number 2 was how to get the offer into advertisement, and the strategy
market,
for that is AIDA. What is next? What comes after that?
Master your messaging, so your follow-up process, and that's with a call to action. So mastering the follow-up process of taking people from curious to serious to sign up. So yeah, we typically use Messenger for that. We've got we work with, we call the Messenger sign-up method, which is just sort of a process where you go on how do you build relationship fast and establish value, and then take the orders from there.
I like that. How do you follow up to have them from curious to serious?
Well, that's in depth.
So, generally speaking, why would you say martial arts business fail? Like, or how do they plan for risk management?
Risk management. Wouldn't say I'm the best person to answer that. But on failing, things that I have come across, a lot of it, well, look, everything in business starts with mindset, right? That's sort of the overarching theme. And with mindset comes beliefs about money, ethics on charging money for martial arts. And a big one that's probably never spoken about is the peer group. Because if your great master teacher that you learn from doesn't charge for martial arts, or maybe they've got different philosophies, and that's passed on to you, that creates a lot of conflict. Because if you want to try and grow a business, but your martial arts master, who's truly a master at martial arts, is not a master at business, but is a master at martial arts, is enforcing those beliefs and mindset onto you, you're going to face some crossroads, right? Because you're going to have to let go of that to move forward. So a lot of it starts with mindset. And I was on we host this a virtual event. It's called the Martial Arts Media Intensive. We used to do it physical, but hey, digital is great because I can run the event and go home. And I can access the world, so it's always better. And we were going through this process, and somebody was chatting about, we were talking about sales, and he mentioned, I'm too an honest man to be good at sales. I was like, whoa, we got to talk about that, right? Because for you listening, maybe there's something else that you're attaching to it, right? Maybe you've got a different type of belief. So you can take this example and work it into your own scenario. But we really had to dive deep into that, because if you feel that you are too honest to be good at sales, how are you going to move your business forward? How are you going to present your martial arts to someone if you feel that what you're doing is unethical? You will sabotage your own success day in and day out. So you've got to get clear on that. And the easiest way to really get clear on that is just go look at your students. Like, if you're teaching martial arts, do you change lives? How many lives have you changed? Are people better off after training martial arts with you or not? If they're not, you probably shouldn't be in business, right? But I think for 99% of martial arts school owners, you change lives. And I know, we skipped that part of my story, but, it definitely changed my life when I got into martial arts. And I wish I was a kid, and I had a martial arts instructor convince my parents to get me started when I was a kid, because I know the benefits now. I mean, I'm 44 now, but, I started in my mid-30s. I see the benefits now, and I see how that's helped my son. And that message needs to be enforced. So you've got to be able to communicate your value and understand the value that you provide. And the value that you provide is not on the mats. It's much higher level. And this is what really helped us help school owners during the pandemic. Because what do you do in a pandemic when the vehicle that you attach to, which is your martial arts training on the mats, camaraderie, friends, high fives, that community, if that's missing, then how do you transfer that experience without the vehicle? And that's what you've got to think about, right? Well, how do you do that? Well, how do you take your community, the missing element? How do you take that online? How do you continue being a coach? How do you continue being a coach and make sure that people move up? And what content can you provide to support that? That challenges your thinking in big ways, because that's the vehicle.
And also you value, I would imagine the value you're bringing to the community has to speak from a place where you understanding yourself as a business owner, what you and the gym is bringing to people's life. So how do you translate that into a sentence? How do you translate that into a powerful value proposition?
I don't know if it's much of how I can put it in a sentence, but it's more of Give me a better scenario. Like, let's say, are you talking about like a current circumstance, like with now?
So let's say this, like in Toronto, there's like, I don't know, hundreds of jiu-jitsu gym. How do they create a message that is different from all the other gym? And it's not saying, come to train with me, I'll build your confidence, I'll help your child not to be bullied, right? How do you separate yourself from everybody else who is offering the same, basically?
Offering the same, but how do you go about presenting that message?
Right.
Through to people. So maybe this helps. Last week on our Partners Power Hour call, I was with one of our partner members who's based in the UK. And I think the UK and Canada are still I mean, I know for the UK, they've been in lockdown for about a year. But now things are starting to look up. So we looked at, all right, well, what's the plan then? How do we navigate through this? So for them, they're still doing their online classes. They're doing things online. I know jiu-jitsu can be a bit trickier because how do you do online? But there's many successful models that you can look at of people doing that. Like if you look at what the Gracies are doing, you can take things from that and apply that. Now, some people might look at that and say, well, that's the Gracies and that's them and we can't be that. But wrong, because you're the coach and you've got your community and your community listens to you. So, and where would you want them to get the content? From someone else or from you? So you totally got to be the leader. It's your chance to step up as a leader.
That's a powerful statement, is don't be afraid to kind of steal from somebody else and give yourself that permission. Yeah.
So just a bit more context on things that, we really saw school owners struggle with is when things are going up and down, how do you stay positive, right? Like it looks like the whole world is crumbling. Lockdown, not lockdown. We open, we're not. Breakout, And so you gotta divide empathy and sympathy. And sympathy, what I mean by that is when things go wrong, I see school owners jump straight to Facebook and they take that emotion of sympathy with them of how life sucks, and that energy goes out in their posts and their communication. And it's kind of like saying, hey, all of us, we all got our heads in the sand, and I understand because I also got my head in the sand, and let's all have our head in the sands, and life sucks and we'll wait for better days. Or you can have empathy and take it as an opportunity to lead, meaning it sucks, and then give yourself permission to go have a sulking moment of how life sucks for an hour or 2 hours, get it out of your system, and now go refine your message. Okay, and this is the hardest thing, but like, okay, so what's the plan? Because if there's no plan, and this is, when we saw all these cancellations, when people run out of the future with you, they cancel. So, when things shut down, they're like, well, we'll cancel because what's the plan?
Yeah.
So it's important to have the plan. And I'll get back to how we're doing this with one of our school owners in the UK. You've got to have that plan. And having empathy is understanding the situation, but then turning the wheels. And so we did this with Don a few times where it's like, okay, we're locked down. Well, how are we going to handle this? And the messaging was something like to his members, right? Okay, we're in a lockdown. It happened again. It's probably going to happen again too, right? But what are we going to do? We're martial artists. Are we going to let this get in our way, or are we going to actually just commit and get the thing done and train and be better off when we open? Because when we open, this is the plan, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. So if that helps in one part. Now, so what are we doing with our client in the UK? Well, they know that I think end of this month they can I forgot the exact dates, but I think end of March they can do more outside training. April they're looking at opening doors, and then they're moving into summer. Now, one thing that we noticed in Australia was schools boomed at times when they wouldn't normally boom, meaning like right before December, or as people moved out of the pandemic, people were just keen to get on with life, and gyms are just booming, right? Spoke to someone yesterday, doubled his business from last year. So things are really looking up, right? Martial arts school owners that have moved past it are thriving. And so for us looking at in the UK, we were looking, all right, well, so we've got these 4 dates. We've got end of the month, we've got something happening in April, we've got summer, etc. coming up. So how do we plan the campaigns? Well, the secret to that is having your message to market match on point. So the right message at the right time for the right person. And this has been the trickiest in the pandemic, because you've got to, as much, whether you agree with governments or not, what they say goes, right? So you can hate it, love it, fight it, like that's what is said. So what can you do is you can just ride the train. You can piggyback on what it is that they're saying, and you can draw the good news out of that. So we're preparing the campaigns, and we're going, well, we got these 4 dates, and the minute the announcements get made, then it's good news. We're open. It's sending the message out that we're ready. Let's go, right? So if things have been tough and you're looking at the next few months and like what's going to happen, well, be prepared, right? Because your time is coming and the boom is coming.
Yeah.
But make sure that your messaging is on point at that day, because the message one day before lockdown and one day after is a completely different message. So you got to be prepared that your message resonates where people are at mentally at that time and move past it. And just know that for every 50% of people that don't want to continue on with life and are paranoid and everything else, there's another 50% that are.
In terms of the messaging, would you say for the messaging to be on point is to say what's in the moment, or divulging a part of the plan and where the gym is like, what's the vision?
Depends on where the marketing message is at. If it's for retention, it's definitely more about the plan. If it's for marketing and attracting students in ads, I would be more in the moment of what it is. And, if there's sort of a glimpse of the plan that's ahead of opening dates, etc., do that. But, something you can really work to your advantage in all this is wait lists. Wait lists and scarcity is a real powerful thing. And if you're dealing with restrictions and you can't have enough people on the mats, fill up a wait list. People understand demand and supply is a scarce thing. And that can drive a lot of people to make sure that they get on the list for when you open or when you have a spot available as well.
I like that. Nice. So if someone had to start a business today, where do they start, and how do they create a sustainable game plan?
Okay.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it is. So look, I'll just give my perspective, right? On my perspective, I would say simplify. And what I mean by that is you want to have a good product. You want to be good at something, delivering something good, and be clear on what that is. And then again, going back to market, well, where is your market? Like who are your ideal customers, and how are you going to get a message out to them? And you can go back actually to my initial marketing advice: get a great offer, find a way to put it in front of people, follow up with them, and do that until you have a sustainable customer base, and then you can get all fancy and everything else. But I'd want to do that before I build websites, get a flashy logo, do all this stuff that feels like I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not, because if you don't have a customer, then you got nothing. So I'd focus on like, what is the minimal viable way I can get started, deliver the thing, and perfection is a killer, right? So just go, because you're going to learn when you go. Be clear on what are you offering to people, what benefit they get, find a way to get that started, even if it's not running ads and it's just in your sphere of influence. friends, family. Sometimes they're your first customers, right? I think a lot of people have had a mum as their first customer, but just start somewhere and get that out and just refine that and avoid have horse flap blinkers on and just build a customer base.
Great advice. What would you say are the biggest myths for an online business marketing? What are the things that someone should avoid, and what are the absolutely must to implement?
Myths to avoid. So I guess be careful where you get your advice from. That's a tricky part, right? Because in today's world, you can buy the course on how to be the expert, and that's your intro into business. And it means that someone hasn't applied any of what they learned in a real business, or maybe it worked in another business and they haven't adapted it into a model. So just be super cautious who you get your advice from based on what you want to do. That's probably the biggest thing. And people will always sell on their strength, right? So people will always sell what they sell. So, if people are selling websites, they're going to tell you're going to need the best website. If they're selling course on AdWords, they're going to tell you AdWords is the way to go. If they're doing YouTube, they're going to say YouTube's the best way to go. So, people are always going to sell to their strengths. And that's why I was that guy, we used to do websites and, that was the go-to thing. But I realized it took a lot longer for people to get where they wanted to go. And so we stripped it all away and boiled down to the three things that I shared earlier: the offer, get the message right, get the follow-up.
And if they don't know to whom to go for advice, they should come to you, George. And before we close, I want to be mindful of our time. I know you have a call in about 8 minutes. If people want to follow you or just get in touch with you, is there any? You mentioned there is a masterclass you're providing. Where can they find you, and how can they contact you?
Yeah, the easiest way probably is martialartsmedia.com/scale. I don't know if I can help you, but that's what this little form is about. It's like a 6-step form. It just tells us, you tell us who you are, what you're doing. It gives us just a bit of a gauge of what you need help with. And if we feel we can help you, we'll have a chat anyway. But if we feel we can help you, we jump on a call and we'll chat about the details. We only take on clients that we can help. So I'm very transparent on that part. I don't want to try and help people if we can't help them. We typically only work with martial arts school owners. That's Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, any martial arts of all sizes. So we've got different programs depending on where you're at. But that form is the best place to start, martialartsmedia.com/scale. Then we know exactly what it is that you're struggling with, and we'll see if we're the right guys to help you with that.
I love it. Thank you. So the website is
martialartsmedia.com/scale.
Awesome. And we'll put it into the show notes. Moving on into minds. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you log on today, our new website is going live like 3 days ago. So if it's down, it's just because they are moving the parts that were supposed to be done yesterday.
Exciting.
Anyway, yeah.
All right. We will share the link in the show notes. If you could go back before you started your online business and give yourself that conversation, knowing everything you know today, on top of the pandemic, everything that happened, what would you say to yourself? What would you say to yourself the day before you started the process to preparing yourself for what is to come?
Think less, do more. Just execute more.
Action.
Perfection is a killer. Perfection will kill progress. Think less, do more. Do get a result, assess the result, improve on it.
I love it. Think less, do more.
Yep.
Let's move on to the rapid fire questions, our favorite of our audience here. So I'll just, come up with a couple of rapid fire questions, and you can just answer with whatever comes to mind. Okay.
Cool.
What is true?
What is true is there's always an option.
Mm.
There's always a plus side, and there's always an option. You always have options.
Love it. What is missing in your life right now?
I wouldn't say it's injuries, because I've got those. Good waves.
Good what?
Good waves. Good waves in the ocean. Yeah.
Good way. Do you surf?
I surf. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Amazing. What is the greatest fear moving forward that you will overcome next? So you've done the 75 hard. What's next?
Well, I mean, my biggest fear is still jumping out of a plane, but I can't say I'm going to address that one. But fear of just not living to my full potential more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Life is a journey. So, like you said, keep your jiu-jitsu mindset and go for that fear, right? That's what makes us grow and stronger. What are your favorite, by the way? You have your own podcast, and is that a weekly, monthly?
It's weekly and sporadically. So I interview martial arts school owners. That's how I got it started. Just wanting to learn from martial arts school owners. It's called the Martial Arts Media Business Podcast. And then as I've gathered knowledge of marketing and things, I sporadically just share thoughts and ideas that are current in the moment. And then we feature the odd case study with our clients and so forth as well.
And then I've seen bits and pieces on your IG at George Fourie. So I encourage anyone in our audience today to check that out. Those are really, really great and inspiring.
Thank you.
Especially all the tips and techniques that you're sharing. So good for you. What is your favorite podcast besides yours, of course, that you would recommend?
The Martial Arts Media Business Podcast. What do I listen to podcast? I don't listen to too many. I go in and out. I guess the longest podcast that I've listened to is one of my mentors, James Schramko from superfastbusiness.com. That's probably the most value-driven podcast there is. The others I sort of move in and out of. I'll listen to a bit of Joe Rogan if I'm interested, a bit of Tim Ferriss. I like Frank Kern's podcast, super short, marketing advice. Those are the ones I typically dive into.
Awesome. Imagine the world is coming to an end and these 3 lessons that you can share with the world. What would they be?
Whoa. The world is coming to an end. Well, the lesson is go out and live. Go make the best of it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, George. I want to acknowledge you for the work you are putting. I want to congratulate you for allowing people to tap into their potential. And thank you so much for joining us today and spending this hour together. I can't wait to share this podcast and have the world discover what you're doing. And I hope, I definitely took so many golden nuggets from our conversation, and I'm sure, everybody listening today and who will be listening from the recording will get. Maybe we will need to have a second follow-up because I still have a lot of questions.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much. I don't know if you have any closing words.
No, not really. Well, firstly, thanks so much for having me. It was really great to speak to you. It's always, I find it funny when I'm on this side of the chat because I'm always the guy asking all the questions. Yeah, I guess just for martial arts school owners, if it's been a tough year, but sitting in an area which I'm thankful for, and I don't really like to say, hey, it's so great here, because I'm conscious of how people are struggling. And we got clients in the USA, Canada, the UK, New Zealand, Australia. It's all over, and we had to really draw the positives of what's good and what's good in the martial arts industry, which a lot of people haven't been talking about. Your time, if you are struggling, your time is coming. But sympathy, empathy, get your mind right. Whether you like it or not, people look up to you as a leader. So it's your opportunity to lead people through it, out the misery, not into the misery. So be careful what you say on social media. Be careful of getting riled up into politics and having rants, because it's never a winning conversation, So look after your own mind. I know it can be tough, but look after yourself first. Go do something like the 75 hard challenge or something like that. If you're really struggling to get momentum back, and just be in the moment and make it happen, because life is good and there's good things coming.
Just wire yourself to win, like the title of our podcast.
Exactly.
I love it.
Choice by choice.
Thank you so much, George. Our next podcast with Go With The Flow number 9 will be April 15 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So mark your calendar. It will be with Sebastian Zappa. He is a fantastic guest doing Wim Hof breathing. If you know about the Wim Hof breathing and cold exposure, George, please join us as well. Journey into healing, awaken your life force with the breath. So on that note, thank you again, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Florence. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in. Was it helpful? Did you get something of good value for your martial arts business? Then please do me a favor and let us know. Leave us a comment wherever you watched or listened to this, or just head over to iTunes and just leave us an awesome review. That way we'll know that we are on the right track, and we'll keep bringing you great shows with great interviews, sharing great strategies and tips. So if you haven't yet, now's a good time to head over to our group, martialartsmedia.group. That's the Martial Arts Media business community. I'll see you in the group, and I will see you on the next show.